Alrighty. Well, we're on the muskrat line again. We've picked up a few rats. We're gonna go down there and check this spot, and then was gonna show folks how to put in a pocket set for mink. This might not necessarily be the best location, but just a general idea how you can do it. We're not necessarily we're not running pockets. Well, we got you standing here, Nick. Well, we got some. Oh, that is the mink yesterday, isn't it? Cool. So got a rat floating there. Yeah. So yesterday, in this little cut through right here, if you were watching the live, we had that mink that had been eaten up a little bit, and then we just reset it there and picked up another mink, or excuse me, a rat. But anyways, if you want to pull that, Nick, and I'll reuse that trap to show how to make a pocket. We're pulling today, so we're not keeping a bunch of stuff in. Hey, Alan, how are you, buddy? So, like I've said, we have strictly been running basically blind setting where the crawl outs are for rats, and then Nick's been using a lot of his RBGs for the undercuts and bank dens and stuff like that. And then we've also been, top edging a few where the bottom is a little bit deeper. But this is such a nice little location that it's pretty easy to get a blind set in without even having to top edge. But so when you're looking for mink spots, and especially if you're only going out, maybe chasing a few of them, you're not trying to get hundreds or whatever. You're not in Iowa, you're not in Minnesota, whatever. You can't trap the right-of-ways. So you're not just focusing on the ditches and culverts, right? So you're running this and you go, all right, well, where would be a good spot to put in a mink set? Keep in mind, mink will run all the way from that farm field, right? They'll run the top edges all the way down through, right? So it's totally up to you, what type of set you want to put in. Whether you're setting trails, bottom edges, on the bump outs, all kinds of different sets you can make. So this isn't, I guess my point is, this isn't the only set to make for mink, right? This is a set. And if you want to hold the camera, hey, Mark, you're on, buddy. Good deal. So how's it? We got sun coming right in our eyes. Can you see?
Yeah.
They'd be able to see. Okay. So last night when we were doing some skinning, we saved a couple carcasses. I mentioned I like to use the top half of the carcass. I like the skull. For me personally, that's what I like. But this spot right here doesn't seem bad. You got a fairly decent edge. This is a bump out here a little bit, or it's a change in the river, right? Over here on this side of the river, there's a little flat spot, so this side wouldn't be bad either. It's just hard to get a pocket in there, right? Or a good pocket in there. So I'm just going to show, there's really two ways that I like to make these, right? You can chisel off an edge, right, to make a flat edge if you want, and then put a hole back up in that bank. I'm going to leave this one a little bit more natural, and what if I can, it's not too frozen. So this is essentially the start of my pocket. In this water, it's that deep where I'm at, and I'm using a tile spade, and I'm just going to get me a plug essentially, right? And I like it deep. For mink, you want to go as deep as you possibly can. For muskrats and coon and stuff like that, I don't think it's quite as necessary. But get that plug out of there, right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna make, with this move here that I like to do, I will take the tile spade, try and run it a little bit at an angle, and then push it down. That helps create a shelf that you can then put your muskrat on. So again, this is just a temporary set. But when I put this carcass up in there, I'm gonna put it to where the skull's facing out. I think there's something to do with the eyes and a mink. I think it's really attractive to a mink. Same thing when you're using, like I use a lot of smelt. I like to have the face facing out. I don't know. Maybe it's just superstitious. Nick, what do you think? Any merit to that?
Sure.
He called me crazy.
He called you a lot of things.
So I'm just going to shove that guy up in there. It's about that far. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my trap here. Now, I'm not a true minker. Hey, there's a crawfish right there.
I'll be down. That's big enough to eat.
That right there would be a good thing to put in a pocket set too, especially if you're coon trapping or mink. But that's good to put in a. You want to eat that later?
Yeah.
No? Okay. We'll set him free. Conservation.
I'll grab some rot gut on the way home.
So, I'm not a true minker by no means, but I don't mind essentially how my trap is positioned for the most part, as long as I get it to where the pan is essentially directly under this edge is what I want. Because what we're trying to do, in my opinion, is we're trying to get them to come in here and go after that carcass, but also we want to pick up the ones that won't commit, right? So I want that pan just, you know, it basically bumps up against the edge, right? The imaginary edge there. And then, so I got that there. That's pretty much done. You could walk away from that set right there and be very happy and confident with that pocket guarded with that trap. You can add things, especially if, you know, maybe you're going for your first mink, or, you know, you're just trying to add a few to your bag. This isn't really the right sort of material, but here, this might work a little bit better. But again, on the downward stream side, and we mentioned this yesterday, I like to set this on the downward stream side in case current comes and moves it, it doesn't drift over my pan, right? So I want the current, if it does come, to sweep it out of there, basically, right? If it does happen. But that will just help guard this corner a little bit and force them more this way. So remember, a mink is really freaking small. And I said freaking. It's really small. So in my opinion, I like to block it down as much as you can. Don't go overboard. But that right there to me is a really good pocket set. If you wanted, you could dress it up. You know, you can make this entrance slick if you wanted to. That
seems
can help
to attract more coon, I think.
I think it does too. I definitely think it does, but it attracts, it's an extra visual, right? So a lot of minkers will do that, but it's definitely a trick, you know, of the coon playbook. But yeah, that's it.
Mark, yeah, it's ideal to drown them. I think a lot of times it don't take very much water to drown a mink.
Right.
This is
Especially in this cold weather.
Seems like they spaz out a little bit more too, maybe. Doesn't it?
Yep. But yeah, it's not a requirement to drown them, but it definitely does help. I mean, this right here is maybe 5 inches of water. There's a really high probability that that mink will be laying there dead in the morning if we were to catch one. Right? But that's it. If you wanted, you could add some lure to it, some mink lure. Or like we just picked up a mink, a buck mink, and he was really scenting, very, very musky. And a trick that I don't know where it originated, but I know Gerald Schmidt, and I'm sure many other minkers, you know, one thing they like to do is they like to rinse them in the water, squeeze their hind end, get some of that scent out, and kind of shake it around. Just get that musk in the air, basically. It's kind of a territorial thing, I believe, but yeah, so that's it. Does he have any other questions, Nick?
No, so he loves it. Kevin, on the baited sets, not sure where you're from, but like I'm from Indiana, southern Indiana, and it's pretty much too early for baited sets. Here we actually, on baited, we ran a pretty good percentage right here. Yeah. I tell guys at home after the first of the year.
Yeah, and that's usually what I tell people too, or when you get a ice or a snow and it collapses everything's starting to die underneath that, you know what I mean? Whenever that is typically a good time. When you start hitting under ice trapping, you know, that's generally when vegetations are, you know, pretty much rotting off.
And keeping them up closer to the bank.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Don't just go right out in the middle of your stream or whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
Kind of
so like here, you know, instead of being out here with a baited set, you know, you see the muskrats swim this center. You know what I mean? If you're up hunting or driving by or whatever, you'll see them swim in the center, but it's hard to get them to feed there. Put your baited set, you know, up in here instead of out there, right? I'm not saying tuck it up, you know, under the grass where they can't see it, but get it up kind of near structure, near cover, something like that. But anyways, we got a few more traps to pull, so hopefully that helped.
Yeah, Mark, you could stick a body grip in the mouth of that.
Yep.
If you got 1.5s, I'd use a 1.5 first and save your body grips for the more natural tunnels and trails and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, because the one thing you got to keep in mind is, you know, both style of traps have an advantage in certain situations. There's no doubt about it. A foothold has an advantage here because it doesn't have to commit. So if you put that body grip there, the only way you catch that mink is if it goes through it, right? So with this, it doesn't have to commit. You could get some that come up. Maybe something shies them away from it, you know what I mean? But you could still catch it, even if it doesn't commit into that hole. So if you wanted to do something like that, like there was a set yesterday in our live where it was a pass-through set, right? You could take that carcass, that rat carcass, put it in the middle of that pass-through set. It's more of a tunnel, an open tunnel. And then I think you're going to enhance that natural tunnel that those mink would travel with the bait in there as well. So on that type of set, a foothold or a body grip would be, you know, probably on par with each other. But on this, I think the advantage would go to the foothold for sure. So, all right, hopefully that answers everything.
Got the questions? That's it for now.
All right. Thank you all. Got any questions, hit us up. We'll try and answer as much as we can. But thanks for tuning in. Good luck out there.